Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello,
everybody. Welcome to Longbangers in association with Lee Spirits. I'm Matty.
Hello, I'm Colin.
All right, everyone, I'm John.
Right, no game this weekend, so we're trying something a wee bit different. Say a wee bit different, right? We're still talking about Hibs, plus a few other things, but we're going to do one of these sort of nostalgia episodes, right? And nostalgia is normally when you look back on something fondly. I'm not convinced we're going to be totally fondly looking at everything, but you never know. We're going back to the year 1992. I was at the start of 1992, 14. Colin, you were 13, just about to turn 14. And John, you were 9, just about to turn 10.
No, I just turned 9 mid-December 91. So I was a very young 9 at that point.
Bringing the average age of the podcasting.
Aye. This is
I was going to say I was a very young 9, but like 9's 9. Like it doesn't matter if you know what I meant.
Hibs were just on the back of winning the Scotland Cup in October 91. You know, the team that wouldn't die. We maybe could have started with that, but I thought 92 would be a bit better. It was a year where there was no English Premier League and the current guys. Colin, you mentioned before we started recording that came into being in the latter part of 1992.
Come on. Yeah.
Yep. The Champions League, wasn't it the Champions League? It was still the European Cup.
European Cup, it was.
So we're talking pure football here. Do you know, like where football is like in our formative years, which these were like our formative, or definitely my formative years following Hibs. We're going back to that time. So I suppose we'll kick off and just have a wee quick run through of the squad. Now let me get on my screen. I had it on my phone, but it's too small for me to read, so I've got to have it on the bigger screen here. Right, we've only got one goalkeeper listed on the squad on the page here. I'm going to reload it because it's only brought up half the page. I was prepared for this, and this is decided it's not going to show me. I'm going to have to read it off my.
I thought you were going to share it on the screen.
Oh no, I wasn't going to do that. That's beyond. Jack, I could try and do that. Hold on a wee second.
Yeah, I just thought you were trying to use the technology.
Let's revolutionise the podcast.
We shouldn't have done this live. And actually, it's worldfootball.net is the site that I'm using for it, and for some reason it's only showing me John Burridge and Dave Beaumont now. So hold on, I'll bring it up on Google.
Would you like me to read it out? Because I've got it on my phone.
You start doing it. You start reading it out, John, and I will see if I can share my screen, because then anybody who's watching on YouTube will also be able to.
Was there only one goalie then? Is that what?
So this is what I'm not convinced about the accuracy of this site. One, because it's only got one goalkeeper listed, and I'm sure there was probably a reserve or another goalkeeper kicking about. However, it also has about 80 folk listed as defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 strikers as well. So you mentioned Burridge and Beaumont. You've got Graham Donald, David Farrell, Brian Hamilton, Gordon Hunter, Graham Love, Tommy McIntyre, Billy Miller, Callum Milne, Graham Mitchell, Neil Orr, Alan Snedden, Joe Tortolano, Stephen Tweed.
It's on the screen.
Look at this.
On the screen.
If you're watching on YouTube, you will see this, or hopefully you'll see it on your screen. I had to make sure there was everything closed off the other tabs as well. Can folk go and pay attention to what you've been looking at. So how far down did you get there, John? Stephen Tweed.
Finished off with Stephen Tweed, aye.
Right, and then midfield we've got Billy Finlay, Chris Jackson, Danny Lennon, Murdo McLeod, Pat McGinley, David Nichols. Do you remember David Nichols? I don't even remember it from reading anything. If you remember, we interviewed Ian Cahoon, and he had a couple of books, and one of them I'm sure was about this sort of period. I don't even remember him being listed in anything like that. So I'm assuming that he was one of those reserve guys that just sort of hung about for a bit. I remember nothing of David Nichols. I think every name that we've read so far, I have a memory of. Right, Burridge, Beaumont, Donald, Farrell, Hamilton, Hunter, Graham Love, Tommy McIntyre, Willie Miller, Callum Milne, Graham Mitchell, Neil Orr. Like all of those. Remember David Nichols. No, and then you get into the forwards. We've got Gareth Evans, Mickey Weir, and Keith Wright.
Is it outlier? Who's Billy Finlay? Do you remember Billy Finlay?
Aye, when Billy Finlay was I remember midfield. He was all right. He was like sort of one of these. I think he came through the youth team, maybe. It's clicking.
Do you know who it doesn't? Do you know who it doesn't list there? Is who was the boy that played in the Skull Cup? I think he played in the semi-final against Rangers. Was he Alan McGraw's son?
Mark McGraw.
Mark McGraw was not listed there. So
No, he's no. And I try to think who the sub goalie would have been at that time. Whether it would have been Chris
Reed.
Chris Reed. I think it would have been around about that time, but he's no listed at all. But interesting to see what
shite. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Well, see if there's a better one. I tell you what, fuck it. That's what we've got, man. Right.
Because look, I can see your other tab there. Apart from you porn and that, you've got what happened in '92.
What happened in '92?
Did you say double check there, John? Just in case.
I had to like, oh, quick, what else is there? So, in terms of like your memories, favourites for that era, then, and that squad, who jumps out? Nobody, obviously.
Sorry, I thought Colin was going to jump in there, but the ones that stick out for me, well, it's tricky because like I was 9 at that point, and I don't think I was getting to too many games. So when I was that age, I think my dad had taken me to 2 games. One was against Brecon in like 1989 or something, and the next one was Hibs against St Johnstone in the Scottish Cup at Easter Road. So I was going to say that Stephen Tweed was memorable for that reason, because he scored in that game. It was like, from my vantage point and what's now the famous 5, it looked like a diving header for about the halfway line. And I've watched the YouTube footage since, and it was nothing like that. The other one, I think, of course, is Pat McGinley. If I had to properly pick one favourite for that era, it would be him.
McGinley was brilliant at Hibs.
I was going to say, look how much older Murdo McLeod is than everybody else.
Aye.
You look at the dates of birth in that column there. He's so much older, eh? Like,
not half.
Like
1958, like, and you're looking at.
Aye. But they brought him in, like, straight in as captain like that, eh? But it was like, he was obviously famous, eh? Famous for getting smashed in 1990, broke up with the ball. That's what he was really famous for. Although he was the played in Germany and the top player of his day, wasn't he? But he's a lot older than that squad. Apart from
Burridge. And Alan Steddon that's in there as well. But I don't think Alan Steddon was featuring much in the team by this point. Neil Orr as well, like 1959. So there is a bit of experience in there. Colin, what about you? Who do you remember for that era?
I reckon, so I wasn't going to football much in these days, right? As you remember, but I remember all the names are all like the names still come up.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you hear folk getting on the message boards and all that. There's apart from the couple, like I didn't remember Billy Finlay, and obviously the one you've mentioned, I can't even remember now because he's not on the screen anymore. But all the other ones, David Nichols. Sorry, David, but maybe he's a listener. I wonder if he's a But all of them. I mean, I even seen Gareth Evans recently. Like, that'd be when he gave me a right fucking dirty look because he thought I was going to steal the electric off the HTC because apart from the electric fans space.
Environmentally friendly Gareth Evans.
Look at his electric base that it was even, so I just parked it, and he was looking at me and said, "Yeah, park there." Anyway, so I mean, it's quite I suppose it's a famous team because of what they've done. That's the thing, because they're off the back of the 2 months earlier than we're looking at this, winning the League Cup when the club was about bust, so or just after being saved through and bust. So that's why they're sort of household names, legend, whatever category they go in. They're famous. It's still talked about. We've had David Farrell on as well.
We have, aye. And Keith Wright as well, for Keith Wright on.
Keith Wright's a famous one, eh? He got his international cap this year. Looking that up, actually. The one cap he got was in February '92. Mentally only got one cap, eh?
I know. David Nichols managed Peterhead last season. The season before, actually.
Maybe we should Oh no, so he's not their manager anymore. I was going to suggest reaching
Nah.
out and offering him an interview to talk to us about his time at Hibs.
So he was only at Hibs for a couple of years, and he went to Coleraine and then Hamilton, and you can see sort of that was the kind of level that he kicked about it. He was at Gretna for a wee while, but I don't know if that was when Gretna were half decent or
5 or
whether.
7. Aye, it would be
Aye.
that would be the when they were in the cup final. And that.
Budgie is one that sticks out for me. Like I remember, any time at that age, if you might still, we were in 14, but maybe still pretend to be somebody when you played football, came with your pals, and Budgie would have been one if I was in goals. There would have been like, I'm
Doing
with John
handstands and
Burridge.
that, hanging
Aye,
off the crossbars and stuff.
I can't do handstands. Um, who had the results? So let's have a look at like our first results going
Aye.
in. So obviously we know the team had done quite well. We're on the back of a cup win. How does January look for us, Colin?
Starts with a Hearts game, which we drew 1-1 away at Tynecastle. So that would have been a no bad start to the year. 1st of January, remember the days? 1st of January
Aye,
game.
first. Who were the scorers? You got that?
I've got it's Tam McIntyre with a penalty. So Tommy McIntyre, 20,000 at the game, 20,358. That was in the days when Tynecastle held that many.
Aye.
So that's where it started. What I found interesting, I'll rattle through January, right? We were at home to Dunfermline, beat them 5-0. Right hat trick, Kieran Evans. Away to Rangers, got beat 2-0. Away to St Johnstone, got beat 1-0. Away to Motherwell, 1-1 draw. Torquilano. That was 1st of February actually, but that takes you through January. Interesting, I think, is looking at it though. Home game at Dunfermline on the 4th of January and home game to St Johnstone, which we lost on the 18th of January. It's over 7,500 of those games.
Fucking hell.
And that now we get people saying they're embarrassed and they're humiliating, and when we get 14, 15, 16,000 at games. It shows you the difference. And that isn't it. They only won off because it was January. You can look throughout the season and there's actually a home game with Celtic with 7,029 in early February, mid-February.
Crazy. Because even now, like with the Celtic support, you would expect them to bring.
It was 3,500 right away, isn't it?
Aye.
In those days, it was just the big open end, wasn't it? So they could have
Aye.
many more than that. But Celtic weren't great this season, interestingly. That's why
Uh-huh.
I think Celtic finished third at the end of the season, which we'll get to when we do the later part of the year. But if Celtic Rangers on the good, then they have like a crowd, didn't they?
What do you think the reason was for the low crowds? Like when we talked about the Scottish Cup in
This was in the back of
2016.
cup. Exactly.
Well, exactly. Like there was definitely a
earlier.
spike in attendances. Was it to do with, because as part of the research I was looking at, Tories were in charge, UK was in recession. Do you think that had a big impact on folk going to the game?
I don't know, mate. We were young and paying attention to that kind of stuff, eh? Like we were doing modern studies at school, but we weren't talking about
Football attendances.
No. It's funny when you look at it. It's consistent. Like
it's consistent until you get to the derby, and then there's like a definite spike. But when I was looking at it as well, the results throughout the 91 and the 92 season, even when we were playing like Rangers and that, and I think home and away, like it wasn't like the sellout attendances that you get now. And I don't know whether it was perhaps more accurate in those days with like the wee clips through the turnstile rather than counting the folk that like the season ticket holders that didn't make the game.
There was folk jumped the wall at the back of East Terracing as well. Like, I mean, no thousands of them, right? But folk definitely used to be able, because the stadium wasn't being built up the way it is now. You still had the old cowshed or cave, as some folk call it, behind the goals, and the terracing was there, and it was the old main stand as well at that time. Like the famous, I can't remember what year the famous 5 got built, but it was after
95 or something.
It was after this. So I mean, the stadium was smaller, but it would still be able to hold like a good crowd. 7,000 and that is mental.
Well, Rangers were top of the league, and this is when Rangers were good, right? Like proper, like miles ahead of Celtic and that, wasn't it? And we played Rangers on 10th of March, still the second quarter, we're in 13,387. Obviously, got beat 3-1. Gareth Evans scored the one, but 13,000, that's all. And you could probably think about half of that. Half of that was probably Rangers fans, because they could get more in. And
They used to have for the away fans, they would get for the big games they'd get the away end, like the Dunbar end, and then the south stand on the main bit, which is now the west, like be essentially the away end side of that. They would get which was something fucking mental. But Hibs would just sell the tickets because we obviously were miles off filling it. Was this in the midst, because we were still under Alec Miller, in the midst of the 22 in a row?
Yes.
Or had the so that would have a bearing on it as well, you would think, because folk were fucked off of that Derby record. Like Miller totally set us back. Like for all the good that Miller did, and Joe had some cracking teams. This actually, when you look at that team, it's no bad on paper.
It's mad, I know the attacking players he had in the squads and that. You think how has he still got the reputation of? Or not how it's still. How did he gather that perception, reputation, whatever, of it being negative, dull, and boring, right? Well, because it was negative, dull, and boring. But you've got players like Keith Wright, Gareth Evans, Mickey Weir,
Pat McGinley,
and then he had like Kim McAllister and Michael O'Neill, and and I know it's not this year, but he had all that. How the fuck did he make it? How was it negative?
Be interesting to get. Be interesting to get the thoughts of people who were a bit older than us and were going to Hibs games during that year to know if the feeling towards Alex Miller was keeping people away, because as much as the Derby record's been mentioned there, Miller only took charge of Hibs, in 1990? I don't think it was earlier than that, so he was still relatively early in his tenure. 80s. Was it, because when was it he walked away? Sorry, when did he resign? Was it about 98, 97, 98?
10 years.
10 years, so actually... Maybe I'm doing him a disservice. Maybe he had been in charge for a bit longer at that point then. But the question still remains.
1986. It was November 1986 that he took over. And he left
as early as that?
He left in September 96. Aye.
Wow. Because I remember, like, it's part of the stuff that I was reading up about when I try not to go any earlier than 92, but I did watch the Team That Wouldn't Die video. Murdo McLeod's talking about putting the bet on Hibs to win the Skull Cup at 40-1 in it.
Mm-hmm.
But there was definite mention of a 16-game winless run under Miller. And I'm thinking that just would, like, we got how many games under, like, Johnston at the start of the season? Sean Maloney got 4 months. But there was a period of time where 16 games without a win, and he remained manager until 97-98.
It was football was different then. Like it was pre-Bosman as well, and this year that we're looking at was pre-Bosman. So clubs had a lot of power for kind of keeping players on contracts. You had like your transfers. Managers were able to sort of build teams, and that's Miller did build some good teams in amongst some crappy ones. Like Colin, you referenced there, but like McAllister and O'Neill, or this team here that won the cup were good teams in amongst that. It wasn't like it was 10 years shite, but you just wouldn't get that. Time. I don't think a manager would survive his Derby record now. They just wouldn't. I don't think Hibs fans would tolerate it.
This was just the days of the Pink News and not Hibs.net or the Bounce or Twitter. Like, because I bring the message board into it, but I don't think they're as bad as Twitter. Like for terms of what a manager sacked, because it's all in Twitter now, and that's where folk just like put their stall out and just argue.
Aye.
Whereas the message boards made it worse than just the Pink News and sending a letter in or whatever you done, and then and gradually the message boards are to blame, but Twitter's fucking.
Did the Pink have that as an option? Like folk could write into it. I just thought it was a. Right, okay. I thought it was just like a post.
You had to be fast. You had to be fast with it, like to get it written before full time. Cycle up the North Bridge, get into the Scotsman office. Aye.
It was about last week. I used to deliver the Pinks in this era. I used to have my evening news route. I used to do the Monday, Saturday, and I had the Bikes and the Pinks on a Saturday. £1.60 if you got 6 papers.
It's funny, like there's a couple of things that we've mentioned. So you mentioned Bosman, Matty, Colin. You mentioned the Pink. There's every chance that in this generation there's going to be folk, with the technology available to us now, there's folk going to be watching this on YouTube going, the fuck's a Bosman?
Aye.
Nobody really talks about it anymore, is that? Did they say it's on a Bosman? That was like common to what you would say.
So is How to ask this? Is the Bosman the same as a pre-contract, or is there like a slight difference? Because it was like freedom of contract to move, wasn't it?
Bob, what was his name? Was it Jean Marc Bosman or something
Sean
like that?
Mark.
Jean Marc Bosman. And I'm sure his case was that he was out of contract, and so his club had no legal right to kind of keep a hold of
That's
him.
right.
Yeah.
And the
There
court's found
wasn't
in
there
his
wasn't a
favour.
pre-contract.
Aye.
It was
So it was
because you
just,
used to be able
I can
to.
do what I want now.
Aye, whereas so your contract ends on the 30th of June, John. On the 1st of July, the Hibs would be going, well, we still want money for you, or we'll freeze you out of the game. You'd be like, I'm not fucking contracted to you. They won't for you anymore. That was effectively what the Bosman is. That you can
Um,
leave free.
I'm sure one of the Hibs players was one of the earliest ones to go on a Bosman as well.
Was John Collins
Collins
done it?
moved for
Was it
Celtic
John
to
Collins?
Monaco on a Bosman, I'm sure.
Aye.
Ah,
Yeah,
well, there you go. There you go. That was my. There was a Hibs connection somewhere there.
So I wonder if there was like an additional bit of legislation that allowed players to move or sorry, to sign a pre-contract with another club. It's part of that bit about the club holding the player's registration that prompted the Bosman ruling.
That came in later. I can't remember when because they made it like you could. It was like the January before, wasn't it? It was like you weren't allowed to speak to another club within like the 6 months at the end of your contract, and that was when they started firing in. Right, we've done it now. As soon as they leave, we've got a pre-contract set up, and that was all. It changed football, really. I mean, that was when players started getting the big money and things like that as well, because they could go, well, you didn't have to pay £1 million for me, so give me the wages and I'll sign for you.
A big sign on fee. Sorry, I put myself on mute. I thought I was on mute. I was trying to take myself off, but I put it for because the dog's due back any second if I walk, so she'll go Raj. But aye, that would be like, as you say, it was like, well, I'm not costing fuck all. What would you pay Hibs for a transfer fee? $500,000. There's my bank account. There's my sort code and account number.
I wonder how much that lit up the eyes of football agents at that point, or if did agents properly exist before that? Because you could see like agents getting their 10% with what you were saying about not paying a transfer fee. Well, great, like pay the guy that in his salary, and I'll take my cut for that.
They were still agents back then. It was like Bill
Yeah.
McMurdo and that was all the. They were the.
But what I mean is like the sort of the entrepreneurial spirit in the agents, or the leech, the greed might have properly come to the fore at that point.
What was going on in the world in the start of 1992?
Really good question. The Maastricht Treaty was signed on the 7th of February.
Now, was it signed on a pre-contract, John, or was it signed?
You did
a definite Bosman. So that paved the way for the Euro and created EU citizenship. And as we know, in 2024 there was never disruption in Europe ever again.
This is also the month where Mike Tyson went on trial for rape.
Was it?
That's how long ago it was.
Do you not think it's weird how in the modern? So again, like folk watching this on YouTube might know Mike Tyson is the boy that was in The Hangover that's got the tattoo on his face, going to fight the boy off YouTube, and it seems like there's I don't know how to describe it, like a collective ignorance that Mike Tyson's a convicted rapist.
I know it is, but then like Michael Jackson used to all play his songs. Like I'm not saying he's a rapist, but like they two seem to have escaped. Well, he is, isn't he? But they two have escaped sort of some kind of
you'd call it cancellation, wouldn't you?
Aye, because Tyson was fucking brilliant at Bolton. Like in the late 80s and early 90s, was amazing, and that was massive. That I remember, like how like as a teenage boy, like that was a massive story at the time when Tyson got accused and then convicted of rape. But aye, that's when it was. January, February, he got convicted in the February. It was trialed in January, he got convicted in February.
I think it's because he played on the I'm bad, didn't he? Like that. I'm not doing the pun because we talked about Michael Jackson at the same time. But Tyson's whole thing was that he was like,
the baddest man on the planet.
Aye, he was just evil. I mean, he was like that's. Yeah. If anything, the fact that he went to prison just fed into that narrative, and people were desperate when he came back out. Were desperate to see him fight again because he just pretty much picked up where he left off. Which is fucking nuts when you think about it now.
Nobody really. It was almost like they just disregarded the women, and I suppose that happens a lot though. But then because he was famous, he got that power, that that girl's like, I don't know, never really heard her again. Good for her, like if she could manage to get away and put it behind her, but it was like just completely disregarded because it's Mike Tyson. I will put you away to jail for it was 10 years ago. I don't think it's served anywhere near that. That's how long you got. But they want to go on the negative. But talking to beasts and that, Prince Andrew also separated his wife, the red-haired one,
Sarah
and
Ferguson.
this at this time of the year as well. 92.
No relation to Alex Ferguson.
Not that we know of, but and again we don't know the details of why they separated. But presumably something else was going on in the background. Who knows?
That was the Annus Horribilis, was it, for the Queen, 92?
I think that was maybe a wee bit later, but I forget the exact reasons why. It was her Jubilee though.
Was
it
it
Jubilee or Ruby?
25.
Was it?
See, Jubilees when you were wee. What did that word mean for you?
That was a plastic juice cup that had been frozen.
Aye.
It was the same for you, John. I wasn't sure if it was the same for West.
Just when you said that, it was. It took me a while to kind of clock the Queen's Jubilee, wasn't it? Just she had like a wee fucking collection of like by royal decree. Here's a fucking blackcurrant flavour one, and here's a Bars Cola flavour one or whatever.
See back in '92, right? See if you think about your football viewing. Right? You never had the live game because Sky hadn't signed the deal yet because I didn't give Sky existed because it was before Premier League, right? So sports scene Saturday night, Scott Sports Sunday afternoon. That would be your that would be all you had, eh?
Aye.
I think did you get the Scottish Cup final and the FA Cup final on BBC as well?
On the same day, at the same time. So you only got one. You didn't
really?
have aye. So Everton it was maybe Everton Liverpool. I remember Everton Liverpool playing each other maybe in the 80s and that. And I don't know, Celtic Dundee United or something. Now you had to watch Celtic Dundee United, you're like, Israel, watch Everton Liverpool. But they were on the same day at the same time. And you used to get the build up for the English game, and then you get the Scottish game taken over at lunchtime. You were on the bus with the team and all that kind of stuff. But nobody gives a fuck anymore about the cups. The FA Cup in England, they don't give a shit. It's more important to finish fourth.
Sky Sports was around, but it hadn't.
The Sky B.
Aye, it hadn't brought the Premiership yet. So the Squirrels, mind of them.
Squirrels, I've never heard that term.
That was what they were called.
My gran and granddad had one.
John, who was at number one in the charts? You went and looked this up. I can't remember.
I did. So there wasn't a hell of a lot of movement. It feels like nowadays the charts just change. Well, there's things like digital downloads that play a part in the movement in the charts. Back then, it was obviously just the sales, however they were reported. But it was a double A side. It was Bohemian Rhapsody and These Are the Days of Our Lives by Queen. And I think that was partly because at the end of 1991, Freddie Mercury died. So that was obviously one of those, we'll get something out, folk will buy it and remember him. And then the next two number ones, I think there was only 3 number ones throughout January, February, March. It was Queen, as I mentioned, Goodnight Girl by Wet, 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 and Stay by Shakespeare's Sister. How big were Wet, Wet, Wet back then? I don't really remember, but my sister had albums and stuff, and I do remember some of the songs, but were they like a massive Scottish band?
They were big. I don't know how big they were. Big in the UK as well. I don't know how they went big Europe-wise in that. They were definitely big in Scotland because people like Scottish bands are big. But they were big in the UK because their number ones were like, mind they covered a Beatles song and all that. They were of my friends. I can't remember if it was Comic Relief or Children in Need or something.
They did the 4 Weddings and a Funeral song a couple of years later, didn't they?
They were number one for about 6 years with that fucking song.
But that's what used to happen. That's what John said, because mine, Brian Adams, was at number one for ages. Whitney Houston was at number one for ages. And you could get, like, you didn't have, like now that, well, it feels like the same songs are in the chart all the time now. Whereas then you would get different songs, but they would, if they got to number one, they would gain momentum and stay at number one. Because people would keep buying them. You wouldn't often get songs at number one, straight in at number one, and then number one for 1 week. But that was because you had to actually physically go out and buy. Whereas now you just fucking click buttons.
Now, 92, were we on CDs or were we still on tapes and vinyl?
I had a read about this because I was like, well, I was asking myself when was it that CDs came out, and I think CDs came out about 10 years earlier, but I don't think they were as popular, and I don't think that perhaps CD players were as widespread in 82 as they were maybe in 92, but I think it was largely vinyl tape and CD. It was probably a mixture of the three of them.
1998, CD sales surpassed vinyl LPs, and by 1989, they outsold pre-recorded tapes for the first time ever. So they were still sort of early CDs, but you did have to. I mean, you couldn't go fucking streaming anything, eh? Like that would have been.
Yeah.
You didn't even have Napster or Kim, where you would be trying to
Napster.
download an album overnight off of some dodgy fucking BitTorrent site.
I remember my mum and dad buying a new hi-fi for the living room. Like, and it was it's a decent. It's got a CD player on it, and one of the CDs they must have got CDs included. And they've got now 14. That's how old I am, and that was the first sort of one of the first CDs I remember having in the house. Now 14. I'm going to look when that was out.
I had a 25 disc CD player, a Pioneer Hi-Fi. It took 25 CDs, and I fucking loved that. It was like having a jukebox, you know, sort of obviously pre-Spotify and everything like that.
Did you have to load them round the back?
No. It was like a on the front of the Hi-Fi. It was like a barrel shape, like half a barrel, and you opened the lid and the tray popped out. So and then you stacked the CDs vertically, 25 in a line. Like that.
And did it work flawlessly every time? Was there ever any bother?
Never had any issues with it. You would chuck it on, you put it on random, which would be great, or you could just put it on and just play the albums right the way through. But it was great when you had mates in for drinks and all the rest. You could just fire on. Everybody could chuck a couple of CDs in.
The original playlist, original.
You were saying earlier on Twitter, Matty, that I think you said that you had the best music taste out of the three of us.
I don't know who tweeted that. I thought we were used to. Was it not?
So I was going to ask, like, when we were talking there about CDs, tapes, and vinyl and whatever, were you ever like, what was that Nick Hornby book?
Fever Pitch.
Not Fever
was
Pitch.
High Fidelity.
High Fidelity. Were you ever in like the record shops, like going through, like finding the latest release or finding something you like to play?
Nah, I mean, definitely not at that age. No, at 14, I wouldn't have been. I used to go spend my wages when I was working. My wages would go on drink, CDs, and films. That was in clothes. Like before you had proper bills to pay and things like that. But I was always ever so slightly behind the curve. I had a flatmate, Richard, who was that person, and I would pretty much kind of just take a lead for him. So I would say 90% of the music that I got introduced to at the age where I was really into it was on the back of a recommendation for him, rather than finding it myself.
Did you do, John, you would know because you would have been too young, but the Britannia Music Club?
I know what you're talking about.
It was like Love Film before Love Film was a thing. Yeah, it was like the precursor to all that. Did you do it?
Aye, well, Mum and Dad done it really well, I think. But they done it in their name probably for me, but I don't know. But you got you sign up, you maybe get 3 up front.
I was going to say,
one, and then
was it a tenner a month or something? You got like a new album, like you say 3, and then like one new one after that.
Sure, you just pick categories of what you like, music wise, and they would send you one. I can't remember. I don't think you picked and said, "Oh, send me that one this month." It'd be like, I don't know, pop, indie, fucking R&B, or whatever the were categories in. I think R&B was in then. Like, but you know what I mean? It would be like, there's what I like, and they would just send you something that you thought you would like. But you got to pick your first few, like the first 3 maybe, when you signed up. Could be fucking totally butchering how it used to work, but it felt that's what I remember about it. But that was the original before Netflix. That's what was it? Love Film.
Love Film.
Did it with DVDs.
Yeah.
But that was a higher one, rental. You would send it back every week, and then Netflix. And I heard a story, and I don't know what podcast was. It a podcast I heard it on that Love Film, Netflix wanted to buy Love Film, and Love Film were like, "Fucking buying us." And then Netflix just exploded because Netflix saw this was going to be streaming, mate, like the internet and that. That's who you're going to do. They tried to pay them off, buy them out, and they had such a big sort of ego around themselves that they didn't want to.
I wonder what we're doing now that we're going to look back on in 30 years' time and go, why the fuck were we ever doing that? So like Love Film,
Podcasts.
when you were getting podcasts, getting DVDs sent out to you and then sending them back
Fuck
in the
that.
post.
And there'll be bairns now, right? That bairns right now in 30 years' time will be going, my dad just listened to Angle. Longbangers. Just three fucking daft old men. Fucking shite.
Aye. But it's better like, I mean, we're digressing somewhat for 1992, but you look at YouTube. When YouTube launched, YouTube was fucking shite when it came out. Like, it was one of these ones you're looking at it and going, who on earth is wanting to watch anything? Honestly, it was, here's a video of my dog. Here's a video with, it was a dog if you were lucky. There's be like the view out my window or a guy going down the street. Like, because you didn't have folk with high quality cameras on their phones. And the internet was still quite slow.
Oh, I remember a
But they were
video of a guy on YouTube. It was like, so I think of YouTube, like I struggle a little bit through my age with what YouTube is now. Like people subscribe to us, and I find that a bit of mindfuck because YouTube for me was a video called, it was someone going down this like water slide into a big pool of water. Like it was just daft stuff, and it had daft titles. And then aye, like you've got paint, like folk paying for it now, and it's like it's brilliant for us. Like I really enjoy it, but it's I thinking back to what it was originally. Oh, and the video that I was going to mention, sorry, was a couple of Neds through in Glasgow, and they were kicking this fence. It was made of, I'm going to say like about 8 panels, and he's kicking maybe the fourth one, and he's kicking it, and he's kicking it, he's kicking it, and he eventually kicks it through. And of course, all the ones that were above it just come down, and that's where the video cuts out. And you just got to assume that he's lost his leg or been seriously injured, but I never found out. So if he's a listener,
if you
please
like,
get in touch, let us know.
Faint's
Yeah.
leg man. Aye.
Well, I was going to say, was you mentioned, and I don't know if this was before we started recording about computer games and that, but like I was thinking about what was I watching on TV in 1992, like what was on, right? And so I googled it to see what was possibly on, and the one program that started in January 1992 was Dominic Diamond, Games Master.
Games Master.
Wow.
Did you watch that?
Aye, I used to love I used to get a magazine for it and everything.
Yeah.
Aye, it was class because Patrick Moore he was a games master. He kind of appeared as a kind of computer graphic. And the best thing about it was, well, Dominic Diamond was really funny on it because it was all innuendo, right? Which is a teenage laddie, you're pissing yourself laughing at. But you used to do cheats for the games. Ken, if you were struggling, it'd be like, right, if you're stuck on Sonic the Hedgehog on this level, on the menu go up, down, left, right, A, B, C, and you'll hear a chime, and you've got fucking invincibility, and you're like fucking straight on, get the cartridge in the Mega Drive, like that. Oh, it's worked, and it'd be fucking amazing. Aye, I would sometimes record it if I could get my hands on a videotape to record it.
I never had the wee tab burst off it. Yeah, that sellotape over the wee tab. That would be the other wee trick.
Radio used to put codes in the Radio Times and the TV bit of the paper. It was like Video Plus.
Video Plus.
I don't even know how that worked. I don't even know if it did actually work.
I think the idea was you I might be misremembering it, but I think the idea was you press the numbers and that told the video what channel and time to record. But you had to be watching it as well. Aye. You had to have it on that channel. You couldn't do what you do now where you record something and fucking watch something else. Back in those days, you were like, you had to watch it and record it at the same time. But
Aye. So did the TV have to be on?
No, the TV could be turned off, but the video would have to be on and on that channel.
Right. I do remember it. Just remember thinking it was a lot of shit.
What else came out in 1992 on the TV, Colin? Do you know?
No, I did look it up, but there was nothing else. What I was thinking was newly started, and it kind of came up through the 90s with Noel's House Party Saturday night. Like, we obviously weren't old enough to be going out in that, but I think Noel's House Party started late 91 from looking up earlier. So by 92, it was kind of, that's what you done, you only had Code Channel.
See now, do you have nights in the house where the entire family gets round and sits and watches something like after your dinner or that?
Nah, we did for a wee while, right, when they were younger, but they're all older now, eh? But maybe when
Yeah.
they were a few years ago, Saturday night, we would maybe get into the football, wherever we'd been, and we would put on like Strictly and X Factor, and you would watch them back to back. That was how we would do that for a wee while when they were younger. And I used to sit through them because I could take or leave them, but I quite enjoyed it because the five of us were sitting doing it. But nah, not now. Nah, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody watches the telly in this house.
Same here. Here's one, right, that was Googled. A Stab in the Dark, it was called. Right, Channel 4, David Baddiel, Michael Gove, as in fucking Tory cunt Michael Gove, and Tracy McLeod's live topical late night series from the early 90s. There's a...
Yeah.
Look, I'm there.
Oh, aye.
I did read something about him recently where the way that he puts himself across, someone has suggested that he's like a frustrated comedian, or he thinks of himself as a comedian. And I wonder if that maybe ties in with it with his TV career.
Ghost Watch was another one that was on. Like if you've ever watched that, I think
Harold Blue Peter?
Sarah Green.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
no, I was thinking about Fielding. I said it.
Maybe it is about Fielding.
John Leslie was in Blue Peter in '92. If you look at the Blue Peter lineup.
Was he?
Yeah, that's how long they bring it back to Hibs.
It was Sarah Green, Michael Parkinson. Fucking hell. Men Behaving Badly.
Aye, that's right. Yeah. That's incredible. That was 30 odd years ago.
Okay, I think we started watching that when you were 14. Mental. And Sean's Show. Did you ever watch Sean's Show with Sean Hughes?
No.
That was good. That was funny. That was like sort of surrealist. Because it would have been on the back of Vic Neve's Big Night Out. It would have been the year before, I think. 1991, I think they had the series. Sean's Show was good. Aye. Mental. Hibs, February. What were we doing in February? Bring it back onto Hibs.
Aye, good point. Right, February. So I think I said the 1-1 draw with Motherwell away to Motherwell on the 1st of February. Away to Aberdeen 1-1-0, Mickey Beer. 9,568 at that game. Celtic at home lost 2-0. That was the one I mentioned with the really low 7,000 crowd. And then away to Dunfermline, drew 0-0. And that was the end of February. So not great, eh? No, 1-1, 2 draws and a loss. And then we go into March, and there was a few games in March. We were home to Rangers, lost 1-3, 3-1. Gareth Evans. Away to Dundee United, lost 1-0. Away to Hearts, home to Hearts, lost 2-1. Mickey Weir got the goal, just under 14,500 at that derby. And then 28th of March, away to St Mirren, 1-1-0, Gareth Evans, 1,918 in that game.
Fucking hell.
Attendances were fucking shite. I've not got the overall attendances for the season. Like the sort of average attendance for the season, but that was an away game. But now we go on about having the highest, percentage per quartile or whatever.
Oh, per
capita. We get better than that for a podcast.
I know that's what you're at. It's like the average attendance is probably fucking how many people listening to this now, and it's mad because some of the numbers they just I'm looking at the end of the season here. I know we're only doing it to March, but there's only one goes above 5,000 before the end of the season. But that game on 28th of March.
That's mental.
And it was Celtic. It was away to Celtic, which is still only 25,500 away to Celtic.
What else is mad? It wasn't that long after the Palmer saved us for Mercer as well. Can you look at the team that wouldn't die? They had the saved for Mercer, won the cup, and then it's not like folk went, thank fuck, we've still got Hibs, let's all make sure we go to the games and pack the place in. They're like, it's done now.
I wonder when it started. If we do more of these years, I wonder when it'll creep up to when we start seeing it going up to a higher average. But folk say that, we've got folk, older friends that will say that. Going to a game. Honest, I remember going to a game. Was it Kevin Thompson when he done his knee? Was it Partick Thistle? There was only about fucking 5,000 or 6,000 in that game. It was a midweek game at Easter Road. Was that early 2000s? it was a cold fucking Wednesday night sort of thing, and he'd done his knee the first time, and it was a shit crowd. So it might only be in the last 10 years, 15 years that we've got this expectation of 18,000 crowds every week.
Aye, I wonder. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the tipping point was with it, because folk would have come back under Mowbray when it was exciting to watch, and I guess they probably would have. You start the era of modern football, like modern football post. I always think it's like when McLeish had Hibs and we post Bosman as Jules became with Sosie and Latape, and the league was kind of littered with players of that. No, all of that caliber, but you had like fucking Ravanelli at Dundee, like Caniggia at Dundee. You look at some of the players Rangers had. Rangers are fucking like proper world class players.
Mind them
Gascoigne
signing
and Laudrup
the
and
Boers and all that as well.
Aye.
Like, God, they've signed both of the Boers. Mind sending them a work one day. What the fuck?
mental.
And then later on, you find out how they were able to do that.
Aye, I mean that's it. I mean they'll come crashing down eventually, but folk I think would have been. It's thing like for all folk complaining about football on the telly, definitely popularised it again, because it was massive in the 50s, 60s, and that
Because
kind of,
these games are only on the TV, which is what
Aye.
the excuse in inverted commas, but that's what people say. Well, on the telly, I'll not go to the game, and that's what folk that go to the games moan about. Folk not go to the games. I just got to sit and watch on the telly. And they go, folk want to go on then, and it wasn't on the telly, and you wouldn't get like now, like get it through your Fire Stick, or you just had to rely. We might be on Sportscene or Scott Sport, because you weren't even guaranteed. There was only one game or
aye,
one game each to go.
you wait and see. Can help.
Mental. Nobody gave a fuck.
No.
Back in the old days, gave a fuck. They fucking care. I'll read the Pink maybe on Saturday.
Maybe, aye. There's no TV on the internet to talk about it, no Twitter to lose your shit about it for it.
Maybe that's why folk didn't care. Maybe that's why like the managers how Alec Miller got away with it all that time.
You can easily ignore 2,000 people booing, eh? Boo, fucking boo yourself.
That's
Go
right.
go round individually and tell them to shut
They're
up.
sitting in the house. They fuck off. Come on in.
Aye, right. We're out of time. That was interesting. We look back. First time we've done something like that. It was, apologies if we were a wee bit all over the place, but we weren't quite sure how the conversation would go. Next week we'll be back to normal because we'll have a game to talk about, because we'll have played and hopefully beat Rangers at Ibrox. But I think we'll go into quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Next international break through the summer and the pre-season when we've no games to talk about. If there's an appetite for it, so if you enjoyed it, do let us know. If there's anything about 92 that you particularly remember that you want us to talk about, do get in touch as well. We're currently doing a wee free trial on our Patreon as well. So if you've ever thought about subscribing, but you weren't sure if it was good value, for £3 fucking pounds, by the way, right? It definitely is good value, right? But if you weren't sure if that £3 is better than your pocket or ours, £1 each, and even that because we have to pay fees on it, less than £1 each do we get from it. Go to Patreon, sign up, you get 7 days free, and you look when you sign up, you get everything that's there already. So it's not just the stuff that we released this week. You get the stuff that's already been uploaded onto there, which is quite a full back catalogue, but it's a good chunk of it. So go and try that. We went to the free shirt, the signed shirt raffle this week, but I thought we would let the Ramble do theirs first, but they've not drawn theirs yet, so I'll get that out at the start of next week. Keep an eye out for that if you want to win a signed Hibs shirt, signed by this season's first team squad. And other than that, we'll be back with extra time on Tuesday or Wednesday for our subscribers. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.